let me share my screen.
Thank you so much for doing this for us, Robbie.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm honored. I'd
You're
love to do
amazing.
this. This is right up my alley. Okay, can y'all see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let me move y'all out of my way. So if you have questions on anything, the best thing to do, because I can't see the chat, is just stop me
Okay.
and ask questions. And, some things I may know, some things I may not know, and we'll figure it out and I'll get answers for you if there's something that I'm not real sure about. So in the Texas contract, there are a plethora, is probably the best way to say it. And I'm only looking at the 1 to 4 family, not any other addendums or anything like that, just the 1 to 4. And there's so many different ways that a buyer can um, potentially get out of the contract just from the 1 to 4. So we're going to look at some of those today, and I'll get in as many as I can before our time is up. Is it a 1 hour? Is that how long we're together? Till 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. And I may be finished before that. But again, y'all just stop and ask me questions if you have any questions. So one of the things to think about with the 1 to 4 family is this contract is not an inspection contingent contract. A lot of states have inspection contingent contracts. So if you're licensed in multiple states, you may see that. And when you're helping someone who is moving to your area from another state, what we call the option period, as you know, which is when we do our inspections, is so different than the inspection periods in other states. So our contract is more about procedure. So it's more procedurally, if I'm saying that word right, contingent. And so the buyers really have to protect themselves through the option period, or they're going to have to protect themselves contractually through different rights that they may have in the contract. So the
Wow.
what?
I don't know what that was.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I thought I was muted.
I
I'm like, well, I must have really said
know.
something that was astounding. Okay. Now, throughout here, I'm going to share some things with you too that may not necessarily be an out. There may be a remedy for it in the contract. So we're going to kind of talk about those as well, just so that you're aware of them. For an example, I've had, buyers before say, well, they didn't get me the survey on time, so I'm going to cancel. Well, it doesn't work that way. There's a remedy if it's not on time. So we're going to talk about those types of things as well. Okay, so let's start with paragraph 4C2, which is seller has not delivered to buyer a copy of the all natural resource leases. Seller shall provide to buyer a copy of the leases within 3 days after the effective date. Buyer may terminate the contract within blank days. So this would only be used if you have a natural resource lease on the property. And that's a question that you can ask, especially when you get into some of the rural areas. You're not going to probably deal with that right in Austin. But I will be honest with you, we deal with it in Abilene. We have some places in Abilene that actually get royalty checks for oil. So you just never know what it is. But in this particular one, it does say that they may terminate the contract if they don't have those leases within a certain time period. So there's an out. Um, okay, next is the option period. I want to talk about the option period because, hold on, my dog
Robbie,
out to bark. Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. What I was taught was that you never leave a contract blank, that in there you would put NA.
Yes, yes, you can certainly do that on that one. The thing with that one, let me see if it's a checkbox. So,
It's a check and it has a space. Anything that has a space is what I was told to always put NA.
well, the only thing is that unless you're checking that box, it's really not part of it. So if you check the box, then, you know, it would make it part of it. So you would need to check C and then one or two on those. If the property doesn't really, if there's not a lease that affects the property, I would probably just leave it blank. Um, I can tell you that on the listing agreements, Jessica, who I will say does a fantastic job, who is Laquita's, right hand now in looking at all of our contracts. But we've got to be careful because there's some things that if you attach this, she's going to want a copy of the natural resource lease. And I've learned that the hard way on the listing agreements. Some of my agents, because we do so many on-site sewer systems, they check that box that they've sent the disclosure, and now she wants a filled out disclosure. And it's like, well, it's just a box that we've attached it in case they need it, but that's not good enough. She wants filled out disclosure. So she's wanting us, which I get it, it's to protect Lakita's license. So we're having to go back and amend all of those listing agreements to remove that checkbox. So that's the only thing is I would just be careful if a lease doesn't apply. I would just be careful because if you look in the very first paragraph of number 4, it says check all boxes that would be applicable. So if they're not, I wouldn't check the box.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if Lakita wants that different, we can certainly ask her and, she would let us know, but that is what it says to just check it if it's something that's needed. Okay, I just want to talk. I mean, I know we all know option fee, but there is something that I want to share with you and what came up last night for me. And it had to do with, we put in an offer. I wrote an offer for a buyer on Saturday. This buyer's mother is a realtor in Florida. In Florida, of course, we have an inspection period, not an option period. And there's also a timeline in the Florida contract that says that the seller must respond by this date. If the seller doesn't respond by that date and we go forward and have the seller sign it after the response date, it is a null and void contract. We don't have anything like that in Texas. So there was a major frustration with this buyer. We actually didn't find out until today what the seller was going to do. So there was a major frustration there. And at one point on Sunday, they said, should we just withdraw and look at other houses? And I said, I think that that's the safest thing to do. And they said, but what about this unrestricted right to cancel? Well, there is the unrestricted right to cancel. So what some buyers have done and can legally do if they choose to, although they may get themselves into buying 2 houses, is they can go and look at other houses and put in offers and see, if it gets accepted or not. The issue that comes into play is what if the seller accepts that first offer that was put in, signs it, now they're under contract. The only way to cancel that contract is through the option period. They're stuck. They are going to owe that option fee. And that is like I've had agents say to me before, well, Robbie, I mean, we canceled it that day. I mean, there's no reason to pay the option fee. No, there is a reason to pay the option fee. If you want to cancel it on that day, you need to pay the option fee. So just remember that. You've got to pay the option fee if it goes under contract in order to be able to cancel. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the next thing, just want to remind y'all of as well. So we have another one that is the seller forced us to close with a Colorado title company. So we've got a Colorado title company who, in my opinion, if you're going to close property in Texas, you need to understand the Texas contract or you don't need to be closing property in Texas. And so we represent the buyer and they sent over a receipt page that was for $1,500. That was only for the earnest money. The earnest money was $1,500 on the contract. The option fee was $100. So the total the buyer should have sent was $1,600, but the buyer sent $1,500. This contract clearly, and I'm not an attorney, but I can read, states that the first money goes towards the option fee. The rest of it goes to the earnest. So I wrote to them and I said, I need a corrected receipt page. Y'all, that is vital for a buyer's agent to have. What they have done to us is said, you don't have an option period legally. And they said, no, we only got in 1,500, so it'll go to that. And I said, no. So I stated the contract. Y'all, this went back and forth at least 5 times and they refused. And so I wrote and said, I want this to be known that since you are not in the state of Texas and this ends up in court, this is on you, not on me. That you did not read our contract right and give me a receipt page right. And you have admitted that you got in $1,500, but you did not apply it the way the contract told you to apply it. Just want to make sure that we're all clear. There's things in this where you have to choose your battles. So I said it very professionally. I wasn't quite that ugly in the way that I wrote it. I'm just giving it back to you that way because I was so aggravated with it. But I was very professional in the way that I wrote it. You know, I had to choose my battle in this. Did I really want to go to war and be proven right? Because I still have a buyer who wants to buy this house. So you've got to be careful in choosing your battles with things. So option period, does anybody have any questions at all about option period? Okay, let me ask y'all a question. If they want to extend the option period and they pay $1, $10, $100, whatever it is that they pay, in my opinion, it should be the same per day as what the original payment was. However, a lot of times they'll extend for 3 or 4 days, and in our area, write $1. If that $1 is not paid, do they technically have an extension of the option period?
No, and it's supposed to be paid before you execute the amendment.
There you go. So 100% correct.
I love contracts as much as you do, Robbie.
I do. I'm such a contract nerd. I could just sit and read them all the time and go, oh, does it really say that? And it's like I learn something new all the time. Or another way to maybe, it's so interesting to me. I had an attorney say to me one time, Robbie, you have to realize there's 2 attorneys who are going to read the same sentence in 2 different ways. And then there's one judge that gets to decide which way that sentence reads that the judge agrees with. And there's just so much truth to that. You know, commas matter. These different things matter in sentences. So, okay. Moving on to, let me see what my next one is. Okay, let's move to, I'm going to move to title commitment. And we are going to look at, let's see, I'm going to go to uncured. I can go to, let me just start with survey real quick. And then we'll move into objections. On survey, basically it states in here, there is a remedy in the survey paragraph. So if one is checked and you've got 3 days here, 10 days here, 15 days here, whatever it is, this is not an automatic out for the buyer. All it simply states is that buyer shall obtain a new one. There's your remedy. So just remember that is not an out, but some buyers think that that is an out for them. It is not an out. Okay, next is objections. So objections, if there is something specific, and you know, there's times where I see agents, I don't know if they do this in your area, but they do it in ours, and it drives me insane. I mean, we've got one neighborhood that's 900 homes in it. Surely title has already said that there's no objections that residential houses can be built in this neighborhood. So when they write residential home and it's in an existing neighborhood, I'm like, why would you even put that in there? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But if there's any type of activity that they want to do with that property, it is vital that you put that on there. And I always use the example of chickens. If they want chickens on that property, I would absolutely put on there that they want chickens or they want two horses or they want goats or whatever it is. Years ago, when I was still at the Red Company, I was supervising broker at that time, and an agent did not put a use in this section. And the buyer was very clear that the only reason that they were buying this house was to have chickens. And so she called the city, and it was Ty, Texas. She called the city of Ty, its population of about 500 people. And so she called Ty, Texas, and they said, oh, you can absolutely have chickens. So the agent then called the buyer and said, I called the city and you can absolutely have chickens. They close, buyer puts in the chickens, and the next thing that happens is they get a letter from the city attorney that says you cannot have chickens. So he quoted that this one particular property in town, only one in town, had deed restrictions on it that said you could not have chickens on this property. Now, why anybody would do that, I have no idea, but that is what they did. And it went way back in time for these deed restrictions. Now, it all worked out. The buyer was able to petition to get that removed and have their chickens, but they had to hire an attorney and all of the different things. But let me ask you a question. Where was the first mistake, besides not writing it in there and checking the deed restrictions? Because deed restrictions came up on the title commitment. Remember that. They're going to come up on Schedule B. So what else was a mistake in this transaction?
I mean, I would have asked the listing agent prior to even submitting an offer, do my due diligence,
Do you
check
think
the
it was,
CCNRs if there's an HOA, all those things.
Getting it in writing.
do you think it was smart for the agent to call the city and take on that liability?
Oh no.
Because as soon as she did that and they told her no, she became responsible. She is the reason the buyer went forward and didn't cancel during the option. She is the reason that the title commitment wasn't looked at and deed restrictions weren't pulled. They already had their answer. Just be careful when you put your name on things. Like right now, I'll share with y'all. Lakita's been dealing with it every single day. We've got a $3,800 foundation bill that's about to go as a lien on one of our buyers' houses because my agent ordered it. So it became our responsibility. It wasn't paid for at closing the way the seller said that it would be. The invoice was never sent to title. Guess who's paying $3,800 for foundation work? Yep. So be careful what you order because any company, I have paid for so many pest inspections that I finally told my team, do not order another pest inspection. That is on the buyer. I'm not paying for another pest inspection. One year, it was to the tune of about $1,100 worth of pest inspections that I paid as team leader. And I'm overpaying for all this stuff because we order it because we think we're doing a good job for our clients, and we are. But when things cancel and you've already ordered a service, we're the ones responsible for it whenever you do it. So that's just a little derailment, but letting y'all know how that works. So going back to the objections, on the objections, so there's some different things with objections because with objections, the seller gets to try to cure it. So there's a cure period. This is not an automatic out for a buyer. there is a cure period in there. Um, the buyer can terminate within the cure period, but the buyer has to give notice. And if notice is not given, that's your big thing, is whether notice was given in a timely manner or not. And if you see right here, I don't know if y'all can see my mouse or not, but buyer's failure to object within the time allowed will constitute a waiver of the buyer's right to object. So you've got to make sure that you are on top of these timelines in your contract. Okay, and just another little thing. As a listing agent, whenever you get an offer in, you do not want this blank. I don't care whether they have something written here or not. Y'all need to make sure that you are recommending to your seller to counter on this. You do not want it to go to the closing date.
And you want to make sure the amount of days there is going to be enough for title to get the commitment to you guys.
Well, it's after we receive the commitment.
Oh.
So once you receive the commitment, you have so many days to look at the commitment. And so on that, I usually do 3. I mean, is usually what I do. That should be enough. If they need more time, then they can ask for more time, or you can do 5 if you want to give them 5 days. But just remember that within that time period, the buyer has to cancel. So as a buyer's agent, leave it blank. You get all the way to the closing date. But as a listing agent, you certainly want a number in there for sure. Okay. Next is, let me see, we did survey. Okay, we are going to go now. I want to go down to right here. Property condition, we're going to go to seller's disclosure. Buyer has received the notice or buyer has not. As a listing agent, y'all, it is just vital that you are getting these seller's disclosures from your sellers ahead of time. And that if you can upload them in your document storage in your MLS, we can. Don't know how yours works. But uploading that into, your documents, so to say, for the buyer's agent to be able to get is they need this before they're even making an offer. And when they send the offer over, they need to be sending the signed seller's disclosure. If I get an offer in and we actually, have that seller's disclosure, I'm going to shoot it back over to the buyer's agent and say, this was uploaded to MLS. I really need this before the seller makes a decision. They need to go over the seller's disclosure. Y'all, this is one of the biggest outs in the contract. And I don't think agents really take it that serious. But if you read, it says buyer has not received the notice within blank days after the effective date. So let's say that they put 5 there. Usually in our area, I see 3, but let's just say they put 5. So within 5 days after the effective date of this contract, seller shall deliver the notice to the buyer. If buyer does not receive the notice, buyer may terminate this contract at any time prior to the closing, and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. If seller delivers the notice, buyer may still terminate. So let's think about that. Buyer may terminate this contract for any reason. That's an option period, y'all. Did you just read that? Buyer may terminate this contract for any reason within 7 days after buyer receives the notice or prior to closing, whichever comes first, and the earnest money will be refunded. So let's pretend that has 5 in it and they get it, and now they have 7 days to review it. That's an extension of the option period. It's on us as listing agents to ensure that we are getting that seller's disclosure. You do not want to have to call your seller and say, I didn't deliver it and I didn't upload it to MLS. They never had it and they canceled. That is not a good look for you or for Epic or for anything. So you've got to really, really, and I even, when I go on a listing appointment, I share that paragraph with the seller and say, this paragraph is just as powerful as the option period. It's option period number 2. I cannot impress upon you enough how much I need the seller's disclosure from you ASAP. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but y'all, it's so important. Okay. Next is, let's go to lender, wait, 7A and T. Okay. So let's go to lender required repairs. That's going to be under same paragraph, and this is right here. Unless otherwise agreed in writing, neither party is obligated to pay for lender required repairs, which includes treatment for wood destroying insects. If the parties do not agree to pay for the lender required repairs or treatments, this contract will terminate and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. If the cost of lender required repairs and treatments exceeds 5% of the sales price, the buyer may terminate this contract and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. So let's back up and think about this. The seller says, okay, I will agree to pay for these repairs and I will get all of these repairs taken care of. Let's pretend that we're in a $100,000 contract. And so 5% of that would be $5,000. So let's say that the total amount of the repairs is $6,000. The buyer may say, it's just too much in repairs. I'm so scared there's other things wrong with this house. They can then cancel the contract, even if the seller agrees to pay for those repairs. And keep in mind, when you're in a tight market and you're looking at, I've had a few lender required repairs at times with a conventional loan, but most of the time, of course, it's FHA and VA. So if you're dealing with FHA and VA contracts, there are times in a tight market that a buyer will do the repairs. The biggest problem with that is, those repairs have to be done before closing. So the buyer is taking on a responsibility that if they agree to do the repairs, if it's, let's pretend it's scraping and peeling paint. I see that all the time for older homes. I'm sure y'all see it too. So the seller says, I'm not doing it. And the buyer's like, I really want this house. They buy the paint. They go over and they scrape it and peel it and paint it themselves. And this does not close. That's on them. The seller does not owe them the money. But just keep that in the back of your mind. Or if they pay to, have screens put on the house or whatever it is that comes up on the appraisal that needs to be done, whatever the buyer agrees to pay for, they're out if it does not close. Questions as we go along? Did y'all already know all of this, or am I showing y'all some things maybe that you didn't know already?
I just texted. I'm learning new stuff, so that's good.
Oh, good.
Super
Good.
valuable, Robbie. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Okay, let's see. What else did I write down on here? Let's go to 7F. I put something on here. Okay, 7F. Okay, if the seller does not complete the repairs, this basically says that it will extend closing up to 5 days. Let's just read it. I always like to read exactly what it says. Seller shall provide buyer with copies of documentations from the repair persons showing the scope of work and payment for the work completed. There are times when we get pushback as buyer's agents on this. It's been done. What more do you want? No, I want what the contract says. I want the documentation. And this is not an or, this is an and. And means with this. So this and this. At seller's expense, arrange for the transfer of any transferable warranties with respect to the repairs and treatments to buyer at closing. So let's say that there's a foundation repair. They would need to make sure that this is the seller's responsibility. is to make sure that that warranty gets transferred to the buyer upon closing. If seller fails to complete any agreed repairs and treatments prior to the closing date, buyer may exercise remedies under paragraph 15 or extend the closing up to 5 days if necessary for seller to complete the repairs and the treatments. If they extend it up to 5 days and the seller still does not do it, then they exercise their rights in paragraph 15. And we all know or should know what paragraph 15 is. That's your default paragraph. Any questions on this?
Robbie, I have a question.
Yes.
I don't think it falls under this exactly, but you just made me think about it, mentioning the
Sure.
word like foundation. um, I know a lot of homes in the area of where I do business, there's a lot of new construction. So a lot of homes that were built like in 2021, 2022 that are for sale. And again, those homes are competing with still new construction. And so my question is, when it comes to a lot of the builders offer like 10-year warranties on
Yes.
structural. How
Mhm.
does, if you're representing the buyer, how do you make sure that gets transferred so that your buyer still can leverage that for the remaining years?
So what you're going to need to do, there's lots of different warranty companies out there. Our area, they use Structure. What I would do if you are representing the buyer buying a home that was potentially built just 4 or 5 years ago, I would ask if the warranty is transferable, the builder's warranty is transferable on that particular property. I mean, in our area, there's some builders who don't even offer it. The only thing that they're going to offer is what the state requires, which I believe is a 2-year builder warranty. So they may not even have any type of warranty on it. So I want to talk a little bit more about that as well. Let's say that the same with you, Jennifer. It jogged me into something else. I do a lot of new construction. We probably sell about 100 new construction homes a year, representing builders. So let's say that you list a home, or you're the buyer's agent for a home, and that home is new construction. It was a spec home built, and it's maybe been sitting on the ground for 6 months completed. Normally, the warranties that you're going to get, your builder's warranty and the extended warranty, normally those are going to be for systems and for structure. You're normally not going to see that for any type of appliances, things, like if there's stove in it or whatever. With that, especially like refrigerators or whatever that is that the builder puts in that home, you might want to get a home warranty for it as well and ask the builder to pay for a home warranty, because you are technically 6 months into the 1-year warranty on those appliances. Now, they may tell you, no, the warranty doesn't start until the time of sale. Well, considering that I believed a builder in that in my own home that I bought, and when my Vent-A-Hood went out, that $300 fix was not covered because it went out probably about 6 months after we moved in, but the house had been sitting on the ground for 9 months. So my warranty had gone out 3 months ago. That's just something to think about. It doesn't hurt to ask those questions. You're only protecting your client. And because I had asked the question and the builders had given me an answer in email, so I had it in writing, they actually stroked a check for it to get it fixed, because they told me that the warranty, the appliance warranty would cover it with Lowe's, and it did not. Okay. Any other questions? Any other thoughts on that? Hopefully I'm not confusing you in all of this. Okay, let's see. We did 7F. We've gotten completion of repairs. Okay, let's go to paragraph 14 real quick. And y'all understand paragraph 12, right? How you put this in, when to put it in, how the 2402, just while I'm training. Do y'all have any questions on this at all with your commissions? Okay, good. Okay, let's go to casualty loss. I'm just going to read it just so that we know exactly what this says. If any part of the property is damaged or destroyed by fire or other casualty after the effective date of this contract, seller shall restore the property to its previous condition as soon as reasonably possible, but in any event by the closing date. Okay, so we all know that if there's a hurricane, chances are it's not going to get, it might, but chances are it's probably not going to be to its previous condition by the closing date if you're looking at a 30-day closing date, especially if you're 1 week out. Keep in mind casualty loss, hurricanes, hailstorms. We see that a lot in our areas, hailstorms, where roofs are damaged. Tornadoes can come through. Another term, I just want to give y'all this term that some states use. Remember, I'm licensed in 4 states. So another term that some states use in case you ever hear it is called force majeure. And that is the same thing as it's basically an act of Mother Nature, is what force majeure means. So if you ever hear that word, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about a casualty loss from Mother Nature or fire. It could be really, any type of casualty loss. But that's what force majeure is in case you ever hear the term. So continuing, if seller fails to do so due to factors beyond seller's control. So now here are our buyer's options. Here's the remedy in the contract. Buyer may A, terminate this contract and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. B, extend the time for performance up to 15 days and the closing date will be extended as necessary. Or C, accept the property in its damaged condition with an assignment of insurance proceeds if permitted by seller's insurance carrier and receive credit from seller at closing in the amount of the deductible under the insurance policy. Seller's obligations under this paragraph are independent of any other obligations of seller under this contract. So with the seller's proceeds, if the deductible is $7,000 and that is what they could get back from the insurance company, that would be what would need to be paid to the buyer, whatever it is that gets worked out financially. Just keep that in the back of your mind that we would need to make sure that those insurance proceeds are going to go to the buyer if they're going to take it as is, because they're going to have to go and fix it. Remember, if they don't fix it, it's going to come up on the CLUE report.
I just did one of these with my property.
And did it work out? Was it this paragraph, Rachel?
Yeah, there was like wind damage. There was a big windstorm. Some shingles came off, some flashing, a fence. So we just did an insurance claim and wrote them a check for the deductible and the proceeds of the claim.
There you go. And we do it here all the time with roofs as well. So, okay. Next is we're going to talk about, I just want to talk about the default paragraph. Remember in this that we are not attorneys. We are real estate agents. So we cannot give our advice or what we think. We can't give our interpretation of what it says, but we can read to them what it says. We can quote what it says. But it is very clear in here. If buyer fails to comply with this contract, buyer will be in default and seller may enforce specific performance, seek such other relief as may be provided by law, or both, or terminate this contract and receive the earnest money as liquidated damages, thereby releasing both parties from this contract. If seller fails to comply with this contract, seller will be in default and buyer may enforce specific performance, seek such other relief as may be provided by law, or both, or terminate this contract, receive the earnest money, thereby releasing both parties from this contract. So they have an option. If, as a listing agent, especially, or buyer's agent, it is vital that y'all understand the and the or the ifs of contracts, because those are legal terms. In this particular situation, it says that B, terminate this contract and receive the earnest money as liquidated damages, thereby releasing both parties from this contract. So what does that mean? It means that if they sign that cancellation and release the earnest money, they're giving up their right to sue for specific performance. Don't push that. Especially as a listing agent, don't push it with your seller and say, hey, you can call an attorney, but I need to get this back on the market, so I need you to sign this. No. In Texas, we have two documents. One is a release of earnest money and one is a cancellation. The release of earnest money does not put it back on the market. The cancellation puts it back on the market. So as soon as you get the cancellation notice of the buyer's reason, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's option period or another reason, there's your ticket to put it back on the market in MLS.
The termination?
The
Okay.
cancellation, yeah, the termination of contract. The release of earnest money is not. You can fight all day long on that. And I've had them fight it out and go to go to mediation over who's going to get that earnest money. And I will tell you that the agent who keeps better records is usually going to be the prevailing party for the seller or the buyer because your records are going to come into play with them receiving this back or suing for specific performance, whatever it is that they're doing. Any questions? That's the main ones. And there's others, of course, whenever you start getting into active kickouts and different things like that. But those are your main ones in this contract. I want to share with you too that when you use the words, so I love ChatGPT now because they can rewrite it. You can say, please do this where it is not legal and does not use the word if. Any attorney will tell you that when you use the word if, the word if can get you in trouble because it is if this occurs, then this happens. And now you're practicing law. Steer clear of that in special provisions. I'll share years ago in like 2014 and in 2015, we did not have an appraisal addendum back then. You can look on the bottom and see maybe whenever that appraisal addendum started, but we didn't have an appraisal addendum. And we all the time put in here because it didn't protect this, the third party addendum does not protect a conventional buyer. It only protects the others. So it says in there, if it's FHA or VA, then you put the amount that the appraisal has to be. There's nothing for conventional buyers. So everyone was putting in special provisions. If it doesn't appraise, then the buyer can cancel. And I sent the state Florida's basically appraisal addendum and said, this is what y'all need to give us an addendum on this. It wasn't far after that we got that. I don't think it was from me. I think that they started seeing it as a problem in special provisions. But anyway, just be careful what you put in special provisions.
I have a question for you. Can we go to the HOA thing? Because I can't remember exactly what it was on the HOA addendum. It happened to me. This buyer backed out using we felt like it was very unethical how he did it. I think it was he wanted some repairs done after option was up, but he used the HOA addendum to back out after he got the HOA docs. He just said, we didn't like these. My client wants to back out.
Well, I mean, if it calls for that, especially like with condominiums, if it calls for that in the documents, then I mean, if they can back out, they can back out.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a specific thing in the HOAs. He just wanted an extra out.
Does it say it in there?
No, it's an addendum.
Oh, on the addendum. Okay, I don't have that one pulled up.
okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Get out. Let me stop screen sharing. It'll help me. Just pulled.
Does anybody remember what that was? The buyer backed out.
I don't deal with a
Like,
lot of HOAs, and we deal with a little bit, but not very many. So I don't know that addendum like the back of my hand, like I do the contract, but I can pull it up and read it. We use it, but just not that much.
thought it was so unethical. And I was making a big stink about it, talked about it on one of our Monday calls. I just can't remember the exact situation now that I'm trying to think about it. But I believe that's what it was. Like they were asking for something ridiculous when we were already past option period, and they just used that as an out.
A way to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's buyers outs, and as you know, what we've gone through today in this contract.
Yeah. And we
Um,
don't have to go over the addendum. It's fine. I wish I could remember the specific details of it, but
Let me see.
Rachel, was it tied to the number of days that they had to like hand over the HOA paperwork? Was that what it was tied
no,
to?
no, it wasn't that. They received the HOA paperwork. It just once you get the HOA docs, you have a certain amount of days to back out if you see something you don't like in it. But it doesn't make them specifically say what it was in the CCNRs that made them back out. So they just said, we're using this as our out. And I was like, we all know what you're doing. But that's
Sorry.
what it is. Oh, you guys, sorry, never mind. This is not a Monday call. Continue, Robbie.
No, it's good. I'm done. I'm I'm
Okay.
I'm finished. Just if anybody has any questions or anything like that, I'm here to answer them.
I have an 81-year-old first-time home buyer. How cool is that?
Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. I love that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, Laura and Jamie, I want y'all to smile because I'm going to post this on my page that I got to be with y'all.
Hold on, I'll put my glasses on.
Oh, yay. Hey, Rachel. Okay, y'all smile. Oh, yay. Hey, Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah, that has got to be a video, Rach.
I have to, yeah. And I
Mhm.
want to see if she'll do it with me. If she'll let me
Yeah.
video her.
Yes, I hope so.
that's awesome.
We are backing out of the house that she found because so the foundation, it showed movement. The sellers had the builder come out and they said it was performing fine. They had an engineer come out, said it was performing fine, but the measurements were there. They were like 1.7, 2.5 in the garage, front of the garage. So me and my best friend put it into Chat GPT and was like, what do you think about this? And it kept referring to the build to their report. And I was like, take out the report stuff, just look at the elevation and let me know what you think. And it was like, you know, and I was like, well, we knew east of 35, we were going to have foundation issues. I mean, this still has 4 years of a builder warranty on it. But so her daughter called her and like talked about it without me. She didn't realize that this is pretty standard. And she got scared and backed out, which I'm happy for. I want her west of 35 anyway. So we're going to go look Thursday at another house closer to me.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I would do a story on that one. That one's special.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to exit out if y'all are finished with me and y'all can continue
Yes, thank
on.
you, Robbie.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so
Thank
much.
y'all for letting me be here. I appreciate it so much. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Do y'all want to stay on?